Well, we finally have some summer-like weather. I've been promising the church every Sunday morning here in person that this is the last Sunday that I'm wearing a sweater. Well, this morning it's still early as we're recording NCCP Anywhere, and I have shorts and a t-shirt on, or a golf shirt, so maybe we have arrived. I'm Pastor John Rudolph of the North Carroll Cooperative Parish, and welcome to NCCP Anywhere for the weekend of June the 7th, 2026. Speaking of summer, have you ever noticed that almost every new summer blockbuster movie that's come out the last few years isn't really new? That used to be a rite of passage as summer months would come, as we start to break the rhythms of the school year or work year. One of the things that we look forward to, and beyond going to the beach or the mountains or the lake, was summer movies and going to the theater, getting cool, getting some popcorn and a soda, and some really fun new movies of our summer times in years past. But now we have sequels and prequels and reboots, remakes, live action versions of animated movies, and other installments of some cinematic universe. Last night I happened to be watching the New York Knicks championship series against the Spurs, and one of the commercials, and my son Asher texted me right away when he saw it, was a commercial for a movie that's going to feature He-Man. And he texted me because he knew that was my favorite cartoon growing up, 40 years ago. I can't do the math, but let's just say a long, long time ago. So here we have summer 2026, and we can see He-Man on the big screen. But it seems like years ago, summer movies were introduced as brand new stories. Now Hollywood seems to spend most of its time revisiting stories we've already heard. Sometimes I wonder, have we run out of ideas? Well, someone asked that question nearly 3,000 years ago. And our reading today and all month will feature this thought from a book of wisdom in the Old Testament called Ecclesiastes, which through the translations basically means the teacher. So the teacher is going to give us some wisdom here. And Keith Johnson, our resident scholar in terms of the English language, he's a former English teacher. He loves this book, and he says this is a book of wisdom and poetry. He said that honestly could be featured in a modern literature book of poems, and it's just beautiful and timeless. So I'm going to read now the first 14 verses of the book, and you will get quickly where we're going with this. The words of the teacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities. All of it is vanity. What do people gain from all the toil at which they toil under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hurries to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Round and round goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they continue to flow. All things are wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, or the ear filled with the hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has already been in the ages before us. The people of long ago are not remembered, nor will there be any remembrance of people yet to come, by those who come after them. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I applied my mind to seek and to search out wisdom, all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to humans to be busy with. I saw all the deeds that are done under the sun, and see, all is vanity and a chasing after wind. This is the word of God for the people of God. If you weren't already kind of down and depressed, now you probably are. But that's actually not the point, and we'll get to that soon. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. And that is actually the title of our series this month. But there we need to make an important distinction. Solomon is not saying, obviously, that innovation has not taken place or doesn't exist. Obviously, there's new inventions. Solomon, of course, never saw a smartphone, which, speaking of the NBA Finals, I've watched a portion of the playoffs right here on my phone. It's an amazing accomplishment to the human adventure. Solomon never saw some of the medical or any of the medical advances that we have in technology, MRI machines, even X-rays and things that like that. The jet airplane, anything to that extent, Solomon never saw. However, what he means is that human nature doesn't change. So technology, in fact, does change. He would acknowledge that. The packaging changes, the costumes change, but underneath, people are still the same. People seek out and chase wealth. People still want significance. People still fall in love. People still experience jealousy. We want power. We still fear death. We actually fear public speaking, number one. Death is like number 3 on the list. People still long for meaning. The movie may be new, but the plot is actually ancient. Marvel movies may have special effects that Solomon could have never dreamed of or ever imagined, but the stories that are being told are stories of humanity that have always been expressed. The hero is seeking purpose. The battle is between good and evil. The temptation is one of power, the desire to save the world. We've been telling these stories for thousands of years, on stage, in print, to one another, and now on the big screen, now on the little screen. And thousands of years we've been asking the same questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What makes life meaningful? Why even do I exist? These existential questions have always remained the same. And then what makes this book most powerful for us today is Solomon isn't writing as a critic. He's not writing from a soapbox pointing at us saying we are the problem. He's not even on the sidelines. He's not in the theater seats. He's writing as someone who has tried it all. That's what makes Ecclesiastes different from a philosophy textbook. It's more like a testimony. This is also someone that wasn't just king, but Solomon was one that had asked God, and he could have had anything. God says, you can have anything you need to be successful in this adventure. And Solomon asked for wisdom. And so he was given this special gift of being wise. And so he's writing from this point of view. Someone who's tried it all, someone that has some wisdom, somebody's been there and done that and done it at a high level in all meanings of that phrase. And so this is different. When Solomon says vanity, vanity, everything is vanity, he's not speaking as a man who never had opportunities. He's speaking as a man who had more opportunities than almost anyone who had ever lived at that time. In Ecclesiastes 2, if you would read that for homework, I'd encourage you to do so. He essentially gives us his resume of been there, done that. And in terms of these pursuits, he pursued, for example, achievement. Look, he says in Ecclesiastes 2:4, I undertook great projects, and he certainly did. He built houses, he built vineyards, gardens, parks, pools, and a kingdom unlike any that Israel had ever known. He pursued wealth. He says in that passage, I amassed great quantities of silver and gold. By the standards of the ancient world, Solomon was unimaginably wealthy. He pursued pleasure. I deny myself nothing my eyes desired. And so whatever it is that he saw that he wanted, he took. That's a stunning statement and admission from someone that's sharing this with us. Most people never have the ability to satisfy every desire. Solomon exclaims that he certainly did. He pursued status and fame. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. That was his statement, direct quote from him. He became the standard by which everyone else was measured. He pursued knowledge and wisdom. And that is probably, again, as I've mentioned, one of the most ironic ones, is that God himself gave him extraordinary wisdom. Yet even wisdom by itself could not answer the deepest questions that Solomon had, of meaning and mortality. Most of us secretly believe, and this is the issue, and I know as a father, I've struggled with these things myself, so it's coming from a similar perspective here. But I try to raise my kids up, understanding these tenets of life and the folly of them. Because most of us secretly believe, or at least we grow up believing, if I just had a little bit more money, all my problems would go away. And we as adults know the falsehood of that. If I had just a little bit more success, in my professional life, or in the arts, or on the fields, or whatever the case might be, if I had just a little bit more recognition from the people around me or my colleagues, I would certainly be happy. If I just had a little bit more fun, if I could just get some more fun on my calendar, then man, life would be worth it. Then I'd finally be satisfied. Solomon says, from great experience, I got there. I got all that stuff that we think we're seeking that's going to solve all our problems. I've reached the destination that you are imagining. And when I arrived, I discovered the view wasn't what I expected. Chasing after the wind is a recurring theme that Solomon's going to use to try to bring this point home. Chasing after the wind. All this is like chasing after the wind. And if you think as a kid, running around, or now as an adult even maybe, as you see the wind blowing, here in the spring, you can feel it, you can enjoy it, you can even be moved by it. Stuff can blow off your picnic table, but you can't catch it. You can't hold on to it. That's Solomon's point. Wealth is good, but you can't hold it forever. Beauty fades. Fame fades. Success serves you in the moment. Achievements, though, are forgotten. Even wisdom has limits. Under the sun, everything eventually slips through your fingers. And so what's fascinating here in Solomon's life itself becomes an illustration of Ecclesiastes, the book that he's presented here for us. The man who asked God for wisdom later accumulated enough wealth, political power, hundreds of wives and concubines. That'd be a fun sermon to just focus in on. And foreign alliances. He knew the truth, yet he still chased many of the very things he later admits that could not satisfy. That makes this book feel less like a lecture and more like a confession. And in that sense, a gift for us. He says, I've been down every road you're tempted to travel. Learn from my journey. Don't spend your whole life chasing the wind. Solomon teaches us what life looks like under the sun. God and our faith gives us the only antidote to this. God shows us that life comes from beyond the sun. And so Solomon deals in this emptiness and exposes this emptiness when we try to chase earthly things and we forget to be grounded in our faith from our heavenly God. This is where Ecclesiastes really gets interesting. Because many people, and like I said, I even made a joke about it after I read the first 14 verses and or pointed it out. It's not really a joke. Most people hear this, nothing new under the sun, and the various verses here in this first chapter, and we read that and hear that as pessimistic. Like, wow, this is kind of depressing, I said earlier. But Solomon isn't trying to go there with us. He's not trying to depress us or fill us with anxiety. He's trying to free us. This is an invitation to be free. If nothing under the sun can satisfy the human heart, maybe it's simply that we're looking in the wrong place. Maybe meaning is not found in the things that he mentions. It's not found under the sun. But it's found in the God who made it and who created us. Ecclesiastes is not a book about despair or desire. It's a book about discovering that lasting meaning cannot be found under the sun, but only in the one who reigns above it. The reason there is nothing new under the sun is not because God lacks creativity, like in our summer blockbuster movies that are available to us. It's because the human heart keeps trying to solve eternal problems with temporary things. It's the illusion of the novelty that is the temptation. The antidote is to step outside of that and claim the victory that we've been given through God, that God, the creator of all, is also the source of our purpose, the source of our life here and now, and the source of everything living eternally. And so I encourage you to read certainly this passage that's before us for homework, but also into the next chapter before we meet again next week under the sun for NCCP Anywhere for the second week of this series as we continue to hear some wisdom from Solomon that can just maybe set us in the right space and frame of mind to certainly recharge and chase some fun this summer after a long winter of toil, but also keeping it in the right perspective as we chase after what's important for our faith life and from God as well. So may God be with you until we meet again. And all God's people said, amen.